Hi, I'm Rachel Abbasi. Welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. As always, thanks for spending time with me. Good morning. Good morning. Today I want to talk about disturbance. When we're disturbed, when my peace is interrupted. This was my meeting last night when I went to my in-person AA meeting. This was the topic. And so somewhere in the AA literature, it says every time we are disturbed, no matter what the cause, there is something wrong with us. And I think when I first got sober, that because when I was drinking, I was pointing my finger at everyone, everything was to blame, not me. So when I first heard this saying, I thought that it was saying that I'm to blame for everything that's wrong. And that's not what it's saying. What it's saying is there's something wrong with us. And it's actually pretty straightforward now that I'm sober and I'm not looking to blame anyone. It's saying that when I'm disturbed, I'm disturbed. That's what's wrong. The problem is that I'm disturbed. So there's something wrong with me doesn't mean that I'm a I'm a problem. It doesn't mean that I'm to blame. It just means that there is something blocking my serenity. Let's do something about it. So I totally understand this differently than I did when I first got um, into AA. And that's the case with everything. That's why, like, some people are like, how do you keep reading from the same book for 10 years? Because every time I hear it, I it applies differently in my life. Like, this is evolving. It's all about how do I look at myself? How do I understand myself? The big book teaches us how to understand ourselves. So the problem when I'm disturbed isn't what happened. The problem is that my serenity has been hijacked. And my responsibility begins the moment that I become disturbed. I may not be able to control what happened, but I'm responsible for what happens next within me, like with between my ears and the behavior that that thinking causes. So I never learned how to process disturbance. Like, okay, what do we mean by disturbance? Disturbance can be I'm angry, I'm afraid, I've been rejected somehow, I'm embarrassed, I'm overwhelmed, like anything that is just a little off the beam, you know? I didn't have a healthy process for processing any of these emotions. I had one solution, and that was to escape, to not feel it and to escape. And tomorrow, I think I'm going to talk about grief. But right now, I want to leave that part out because I think grief it's I don't know. For some reason, I feel like it's a little different than all of these other emotions. So I want to talk about that tomorrow. But alcohol became like my pause button where, okay, life is happening. I don't like it. Push the pause button, which means take a drink of alcohol and all the disturbances will numb. But the thing is that the disturbance, the feelings may have numbed a little bit. It depends on what level of drinking I've reached. So, after like the first six, it may numb or make me be able to ignore the disturbance. But once I hit the seventh drink through the 12th or whatever, that disturbance is back and it actually makes the disturbance louder. So I've been doing it for years. I know exactly what it feels like to drink through a disturbance. So when I got sober, I was introduced to this entirely new way of living where I actually have to look at what I'm feeling and not react to it immediately. So one of the greatest gifts of the recovery program has been a new way to pause. And that is, I'm not pausing to get rid of the emotion. I'm pausing to look at it. So I'm not pausing to be like, okay, I can't deal with this right now. Not that kind of pause. Now it's like, I'm pausing. I need to deal with this right now. So when I'm pausing, I'm looking at Uh, sorry, I just felt a little nauseous. I'm looking at like how am I actually feeling? I'm looking like give it a name, you know, am I angry? Am I embarrassed? What are the things that I can put my ego aside and actually name what it is that's wrong with me? Um, what part of this can I control? Um, People, places, and things, anything outside of my fingertips, I know I can't control. So making that distinction while I'm in the feeling is important. What part of this situation belongs to someone else? And I need to accept it. I can't change it. And what part belongs to me? What's the next right thing? So the pause creates that space between the emotion and the action. And um, that's where the serenity takes root, I think. That's where when I start looking at the feeling and making a decision that I'm going to do something about this, I'm going to experience this in a healthy way. It might be painful, but I'm experiencing a healthy way. That's where I'm planting the seed for serenity because serenity for me can only exist when nothing is wrong. And I don't mean nothing is wrong in my life because there's always something wrong, you know? But it's when I've reached a point of acceptance for anything that disturbs me and I've taken whatever action I can for the part that I can control. So most disturbances come when I'm trying to manage things that I can't control, whether it's people, outcomes, other people's opinions, what the future holds, what's happened in the past. That's that idea of squeezing that I keep saying over and over again because it's really like the best analogy I can think of lately is squeezing my fists around nothing and trying to change something. Um, Recovery, the 12 steps of the program continue to bring me back to that small circle of control, which is my actions, my attitude, such a huge deal, my honesty, such a huge deal, my willingness, and my next decision, my decision to do the next right thing. When I was drinking, and I was disturbed about something, I wanted to isolate. Um, when I say disturbed, and I shared this in my meeting last night, I went to my in-person meeting, and people were talking about disturbance this, disturbance that, just like I have been talking so far. And I wanted to communicate in the meeting to especially the newcomers that when we're talking about disturbance, for me, I feel like crawling into a hole. I feel like I'm the only one in the world who's ever felt this way. And I'm disturbed to the point that sometimes I want the world to end. I want my life to end. That's what disturbance felt like to me when I was drinking. Disturbance felt like the beginning of the end for me. And that seems very dramatic. And when I look at it and with a sober mind, um, it looks dramatic to me. Like, I can't believe I thought that that was such a big deal. But it was. Everything I experienced was just like the end of the world. I wanted to crawl back into bed. I wanted to put the covers over my head. I would just turn off my phone and stop engaging with the world. Like, because isolation felt safe. That was, um, I add the alcohol, which made me pause life. And then I just isolated myself. And that was like the safest place for me to be. The most dangerous place for me to be when I'm drinking is outside of my bedroom. I mean, everything was so, um, I just catastrophized everything. It was very scary. And it was like my mind was in an echo chamber and I couldn't quiet it down no matter what I did. Um, so what do I do now? How do you, when you have that instinct to isolate when you're angry or afraid or embarrassed? What a good one. When I'm embarrassed, I want to hide. And what do I do? How do I do something different? How do you kick off doing something different? Um, and it seems like it would have to be very complicated, but I believe that the answer is to talk. Just talk. Tell someone. And that seems like it's an oversimplification, but I've said several times recently, I believe that we were all meant to live life together, to make decisions together about any situation. And if I'm trying to solve a problem or process an emotion, I believe the only way for me to process it is to tell somebody about it. When I'm disturbed, I that disturbance needs an exit point or it's going to stay inside me. And the exit point is my mouth. This disturbance needs somewhere to go. If it stays inside me, it will grow, it will expand, and it will grow darker and darker and darker. And that's why I call it my dark place. That's where the stuff goes. If I don't open my mouth and give it an exit point, it's just going to get worse. Whether I'm drunk or sober. And hopefully I never have to deal with that drunk again. Because when I'm drinking, it's it's even harder to open my mouth. It's a lot easier to open my mouth sober, because I'm practicing it every day. So I can call another alcoholic. I can go to a meeting. I can record my podcast, which is a great outlet for me. Sometimes I get so much I get a lot more out of me in a podcast than I do talking to anyone, including my psychiatrist, because I think with my psychiatrist, she might disagree, but I think I don't often talk for 20 minutes straight to her. But when I'm allowed to do that, I reach new depths of trying to articulate my feelings. And I think that's why it's healthy for me, at least. So, some other next right thing that I can do, if I can't immediately talk to someone, is write about it, or go for a walk, or pray. Like those are talking about it, but to be clear, I believe that it's necessary to talk to another human being. No offense to anyone's higher power. I feel that he would want us to deal with it together. So that's just my opinion. So, sometimes healing begins when just hear hear myself say what's going on. And recovery has taught me that when I open my mouth, that's like the release valve of my mind. Um, I also want to mention, like, when I talk about the depths of despair, like the depths of that disturbance and where it can go for me, whether you call it dramatic or that I have a mental illness, or that or you see it as my depression or anxiety, like I don't care what you call it, but it feels terrible. It's super scary. Sometimes I'm afraid to talk about it because I don't want to feel better, if that makes sense. Again, I have felt disturbed for the majority of my life about something, and so that's a comfortable place for me to sit. It's not healthy, but I can lean back, grab some popcorn, and sit very comfortably on a couch of disturbance. Um, and sometimes if I sit there long enough and I get comfortable, I don't want to get up. I don't want to feel better. I don't want somebody to try to fix me. I don't want to be fixed. I want to feel the pain. I want to feel the anger. Um, and it's odd, but it's the truth. Even though serenity feels better than the couch of disturbance, it feels in that moment like it's impossible to get up. It feels like it's impossible to reach serenity again. And that's the catastrophizing thing. Like life is over, as I know it. I don't consciously make a decision where I'm not like, I don't want to feel better. I don't um but I know, like, over time, having experienced that when I look back on why did it take me a week to call my sponsor to talk about it, it's because that's what I was feeling. What is my sponsor going to possibly say to make me feel better? And maybe I don't want to feel better. So it's not conscious, but it's those unhealthy thoughts feed on each other. Um, and my feet, like all of those unhealthy emotions feed more unhealthy emotions. So, like, fear can feed resentment, self pity feeds um, isolation, and so on and so forth. Like it's all intertwined, and it can just consume me. That couch of disturbance can consume me. Um, but the 12 steps show me how to interrupt that cycle before I get comfortable, before I lean back with my popcorn on the couch of discomfort. So, when that, I try to, when I'm feeling those feelings, turn off my wanter, which is what I talk about all the time, before I have a chance to say, I don't want to feel better. If I even feel like I don't wanna, as soon as I say wanna, that means I got to stand up and I have to do the next right thing without even thinking about it. Um, so over time, the feelings become attached to new behavior. That next right thing that I started practicing in early sobriety, it started with sitting in my recliner, and there was a 10 a.m. meeting on a Saturday. I didn't want to go, but I heard in my meetings, do the next right thing. And so I literally, before I had a chance to say, I don't want to go, I would stand up. And I don't even think I would allow myself to say I don't wanna. I would just do it. Um, so sometimes the next right thing is just standing up. Sometimes the next right thing is walking towards your closet to change your clothes. Sometimes the next right thing is getting out of bed, making coffee, saying a prayer, calling someone. Sometimes the next right thing is helping someone else and getting outside of myself. Small actions break big disturbances. I don't have to solve the problem. I only have to take the next right step, and that relieves a lot of pressure off of myself. Like, okay, I'm feeling incredibly irritated right now. Well, I don't have to resolve that entire feeling of irritation in my next move. It's like playing chess. I don't get my little man. Sorry, I forgot the names of the pieces. I don't have to get the piece all the way to the other side with one step. I just have to take one move. And so if I'm feeling irritated, I stand up because what is it? Moving something to the effect of change a change a something, change a thought. You know what I'm saying? I'm losing words now at this point. But so if I'm feeling irritated, get up, take a step towards my closet so I can put on my shoes and go take a walk. Or, you know, get up and take a step towards the kitchen so I can get myself some water. Like, the next right thing sometimes is just standing up. Um, I know from experience that serenity is worth chasing. I figured that out about 10 years ago when I was on a run, and I realized all of a sudden that nothing was wrong. And it wasn't that my life was perfect. It was that I had accepted everything that needed to be accepted. And although being serene is not a permanent and natural state for me, it is a place where I can go pretty easily now that I know what it feels like. Now that I know what I have to do to get there. Serenity is waiting for me when I choose it. Um, so I think I'm about done because I'm having a hard time finding words. But I showed up, and that was the next right thing for me. And I hope you have a just fantabulous day, and I will talk to you next time.